Welcome. Today I'm sharing my top 10 favorite camping items from Amazon that are between the $100 and $500 price range. So these are items that I personally purchased myself, so I know that the quality of them is what you expect when you're paying top price for camping gear. So nothing in this video is sponsored, but I will have links below so that you have the current updated Amazon prices, because we all know prices change. But at this price range, you will get more brand names and higher quality. First thing on my list is probably my favorite thing that I've ever purchased, and so let's go check it out. This is a giant hammock made by Trillium. This is my favorite thing I think I've ever purchased. As you can see, it's a massive hammock, about 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. And when it's hanging between 3 trees with these giant ratchet straps, it's absolutely the coolest thing that you'll see at a campground. We always have a bunch of people that'll come by and hang out with us by the end of the week once we have this up. And so it's the coolest thing I have. This runs about $500, so we're starting way at the top right here. It has little baskets on each of the corners, basically a seat belt that goes through the middle and around the side. So it holds plenty of weight. We've never felt like we were anywhere close to it not being safe. I know there's some other brands online, and when we were looking, we're like, let's just get the original one. You don't want to have any issues of something like this not being safe, and we haven't had any problems. So obviously we take our shoes off, we don't want it to rip, but I bought this in 2020, so we're going on our 5th summer now, and it's absolutely held up. And if this broke, I would buy another one in an instant. But it is absolutely amazing. There's a ladder that you get in the middle to climb in to get to it. We've put it well over our head multiple times, so it's kind of fun to see how high you can get. Come up through the middle, and you can have 2 people on each side, and we sleep on this in the summer. It's absolutely the most comfortable thing I've slept on. You can get it nice and tight, and it lays flat, and there's these straps in the middle so you don't roll on to other people. If you have 3 people, adults sleeping on here, you will all fit. I think it's up to 6 adults if you put 2 adults into each of the little triangles that will hold around the side. But this was definitely a want, not a need. So this is something that we kind of purchased because we thought it would be fun to add something new a few years ago. And it has been worth every penny. So if you're looking for something that's kind of above and beyond, really just cool, to be honest, this is the coolest thing I have ever found to put on a campsite. We haven't had too many issues because you have to have trees that are far enough apart, and it takes a little bit of a learning curve to figure out how to get it exactly right. Sometimes we have it a little wonky, but we haven't had any problems finding trees at campsites that fit. I think only one campground we couldn't make it really work. But usually if there's enough trees, if you're in a forest, you can make it work. And because you can go so high, you can get above little trees. You don't have to have a flat ground. I know I've already said it, but this is the coolest thing I own. So now let's go look at number 2 on some of our more expensive gear. And number 2, coming in at $300 and 2.8 pounds, is the Helinox Ultralight Cot. This cot is awesome. It weighs almost nothing. The wind will basically take it away. So you're not carrying any extra weight really with this cot. And I'm 6'3", and as you can see, it's about as tall as I am. So it's really useful for us. One of those purchases that we made because it's cheaper to buy this than to buy a new car. We mostly use the camping cots when we're doing hot tent camping in the winter, and the hot tent and the stove take up a lot of room. So we wanted cots so we're up off the ground. And so we purchased these because they're really packed small. So they're not gonna take up as much room as in the car because we have a lot of gear with us. But one thing that is nice is the bottoms of these are flat. So if you do put them in a tent, I don't think that it'll rip the bottom up too much. Setup is pretty easy. You have some really tight tension rods right here, and they go in, and then there's one pole, and you slide it all the way through the side. And as you can see, it's very taut and tight. So when you're sleeping on it, it's pretty firm. So if you're a person who really likes it soft, I put a thermarest pad on top of it, which makes it absolutely wonderful to sleep on. So I still prefer to sleep on the tent style, but in the winter when we're hot tent camping, I can't use that. So I'm using this. If you're looking for a cot that's really light, but it's also going to cost you a pretty penny. So now let's move on to the next one. And number 3, coming in at about $150, is our camp stove. If you're going camping, you have to have a camp stove. And we have a 2-burner Camp Chef. This is an older version, the Everest. They now have a new version. So that's what I'll have to link to. So I assume it's probably even better than this one, and we've been using this one for a long time. But things I really like about this is that it is a propane stove. We've had it, I believe, since about 2016. And one thing that I didn't realize when I bought it, but I absolutely love, is that it has a self-lighter. So you turn on the gas, press the lighter, and it still works on both sides, and you have flames. So having a self-lighting stove is nice because sometimes your lighters just don't work. Has a nice big grate. 2 burners is really nice to have because you can be boiling water and then cooking something else on the other. Or if you have a flat griddle and you lay it on top, then you could basically have a flat top, which we do that a lot when we go camping to make burgers. It's not the smallest stove out there, but it's definitely worth having. And the Camp Chef was a little bit new, or at least new to me when I first bought this. It was this or the Coleman, and I've been really impressed with how well this one has worked for us. So now let's go look at a compact 1-burner stove. And number 4, coming in at about $200, is the MSR Dragonfly stove. Like I said, you're gonna get more name brands, MSR, Helinox, things that have higher quality to them with these higher prices. I purchased this stove in 2011. So we're going into the summer of 2025 right now, and this thing still works like a champ. So you know when you're buying, especially brands like this, that it's going to be something that hopefully is a buy it for life. And this is just one single stove. It works really well for boiling water. You do have to purchase a bottle separately, so that's a little bit of an extra purchase. But this thing, we take it on our kayaking trips, when we go camping across lakes. Because you can boil water on it, it's great for making macaroni and cheeses. We've used it to make meals, a lot of different things. It lights up really well. One thing about it is that it's really loud, so when you're using it, you can hear it for quite a ways away. If you're the first one up in the morning, you're gonna wake everybody up if you're making yourself some coffee or hot chocolate. There's really no moving pieces. You just put some fuel on the inside, and it's gonna use pressure from the fuel from here, so you don't have to bring canisters of propane or anything else. And if you have like a Coleman lantern, it's the same white fuel, white gas that I use in a Coleman lantern. And so I can bring a couple of these, throw them in the kayak. Like I said, without any moving pieces, I haven't had anything to break. There's the pump right here that you're gonna put in, which isn't too bad. I made a whole video that I'll link to that shows you how to light this. And it's pretty simple. But even after all these years just using white gas, I haven't had any problems. The cool thing about the Whisper Light International that I have is you can change out the little nozzle on the inside and use different types of fuel. Some will burn dirtier than others. I've only used the white gas, and it's all still really clean. You can even look at my filter after almost 15 years. Pretty much clean. There's some, maybe just some dirt and stuff on there, but I haven't had any real issues. And so this is the MSR Dragonfly. If you're looking for just a small, convenient travel stove, this is great. It fits into this little bag. So if you're looking for a small stove, check this out. So now let's go to number 5. Coming in at $180 is this Grand First Brook Wildlife hatchet. These are handmade in Sweden, and what's really cool is when you look at the hatchet, you can see the initials AS of the person that made it. So that makes these kind of cool. So these are really high quality. I'm not a huge hatchet person, but if you want to be like a hipster person and buy the hipster hatchet, this one is pretty small. It's going to be mostly used to knock off small branches, maybe on a tree, or if I have logs I have to put into my stove in the hot tent. Comes pretty sharp. You can also get a grinder pad that I have that will grind it down to keep it nice and sharp. I have used the back of it as a hammer a little bit. The steel on the back is not as hard as the steel on the front. It is all recycled steel according to their website, and they are made in Sweden. Like I said, my brother went to Sweden. He said it was a really cool place. I also think this makes a good gift. If you want to spend a decent amount of money and give somebody a hatchet for a gift, I think this would be a great one, because I don't think it's something you might buy right away. We purchased this because each summer we add something new to our camping equipment, and this was our purchase in 2022. So now let's move on to number 6. Coming in at $200 is a twin size wool Pendleton blanket. This actually can be dual purpose. This was a gift for my wife, and we use it camping, but we also just use it around the house in the winter. It is an extremely nice, warm blanket, high quality. We've had this for a few years now, and it's still in great shape. It's all woven around the edges. Also really cool is that it's made in the USA. So you're supporting United States made products, because you never know how that's gonna go anymore. So it's a great camping blanket, and it's a great throw blanket to have around your house. This probably gets more use around the house than it does camping, because we use this mostly when we're hot tent camping in the winter. So she will throw this underneath of her sleeping bag for a little bit more warmth on the bottom, keep her warm inside of the hot tent. And I know you can't talk about expensive camping equipment without a Yeti. So I have two Yeti products. The first is the 35 cooler. I actually do like it. We like this size because it fits well into the trunk of our car. So we had to get a cooler that fit into the trunk, and I had a Coleman cooler that was just really big, and I ended up not actually needing one that big because it would always be half empty. So we went with a little bit smaller and a little bit nicer cooler. And most of our camping trips are from Friday till Sunday, and this will hold enough ice. But one thing I really do like is that it comes with a dry basket on the inside, and so as ice does start to melt on the bottom, you can keep stuff up here where it will not get all soaking wet. So we usually have like our cheeses for hamburgers or stuff up top that we might use quicker that wants to be cold, but we don't want it to get all wet in the gross melting water on the bottom. Also, another benefit is that they do lock, and so they are expensive, and you can lock it right here so that it becomes theoretically bear proof. There is the certification on the inside over here. You have to get the right locks that are long enough to be able to reach down, but I do think that's kind of handy, especially because we have used this on the back of the kids' boat. So you can put a lock on the side, and then you can chain it to a picnic table or anything, and when that's closed and this is locked, so that someone's not gonna steal your cooler, because I bet people do steal coolers. I haven't really had any issues at any campgrounds of anything ever being stolen. You are gonna pay about $275 for this size 35 cooler, but I think it's a pretty good size. We have 2 adults and 2 kids. You can usually fit everything you need, maybe only a few drinks if we have meats, eggs, cheeses, and hamburger stuff. It gets us through a nice 2-day camping weekend. Now let's go look at the second Yeti product that I have. At number 8, we have the Yeti Lowlands blanket. So it's another blanket, but it has a nice travel case with a handle and some little side handles, and you could probably put some carabiners on the side and hold some stuff right here if you needed. But this is a blanket that we use camping, and the dog, we don't have a dog, our friend has a dog, and their dog will lay on it. So it works as a nice dog blanket. So we took it this morning to the kids' soccer game, and we laid it out, and it worked as a good picnic blanket or just a blanket for sitting on the ground for the soccer game. So as you expect, it's a Yeti, so it's gonna cost a decent amount of money. This was about $200. One side is very soft on the inside, and on the other side, you kind of have this rough, I wouldn't say waterproof, but a very strong bottom to it. And when you open it up, it does get nice and large. And you can sit on it, it's very comfortable. It's definitely a nice blanket, especially if the ground is wet. It does stop a little bit of the water from getting to you. But you could hang out, you could lay out, you could use it under the stars. So if you want a soft blanket, more to put on the ground where the bottom won't pick up the grass and everything will get stuck to it. So if you use the Pendleton blanket, it'll just become a mess. You don't want to use that on the ground. Why it means a lowland to put on the ground and use it as a ground blanket for watching soccer games when you're not camping. And when you're camping, the dog lays on it, or you just put it on the ground and you can lay on the ground and watch the stars. So I know I've talked about the hot tent, so we're gonna go talk about the hot tent now and the stove that I use to warm it up. And number 9, coming in at about $250, is a hot tent by One Tigress called the Rock Fortress. This is their largest TP style hot tent at the moment, I believe. We purchased this in 2022, or the end of 2022. So this is our 3rd season with it. We purchased this because we wanted to camp in the winter, and we watched a lot of YouTube videos about hot tent camping, and it looked like a lot of fun. We picked this up, and the kids absolutely love it. We have used this in the mountains, and we have used it in our backyard. We keep it set up in the backyard because then the kids every weekend have been out here and we've been camping in it. And so it's been a lot of fun to practice and get to use it. There's an inner right here, which is a mesh part, but that does not come with the tent. I added that extra, but that just kind of keeps the bugs out if maybe you want to use it in the summertime. There's no bottom, so you would have water running through in the summer, but in the winter when it's cold you wouldn't have much of an issue because most of the time it's snowing and it's going on the outside, which we did get to use it in snow this year, so that was a lot of fun. So if you want to try 4-season tenting, a hot tent is the way to go because we've absolutely loved it. And last but not least, coming in at about $360 is our Winterwell Medium View Stove. This is the stove that we use to heat up this hot tent. It works really well. Because it's a medium, it doesn't take up too much room, but one thing I really like is that it has the glass window. I wasn't really sure if I would need it or not, but one thing that I find that it almost makes it safer because I have 2 kids that are hot tent camping with me, and when you have a fire going, it does create a little bit of light coming out the side. So number 1, they can see it, but number 2, it does let them know where the fire is so that they don't touch it. And number 3, it does make a nice beautiful light in the tent. Has a nice wood yellow glow to it, which is really, really cool. So this has been absolutely wonderful for us, and this is also on its 3rd year. It's in great shape. It says stainless steel. There is a titanium version that weighs less, but we went with stainless steel. I don't see any rust. It doesn't have any issues with it. The pipes are nice. They get really hot. They've got a little patina right now because they have burned up quite a bit, but this will get nice and orange. Try not to let it get that hot. I have had to learn how to use the damper a little bit. If the wood is dry, it'll burn it really fast and it'll heat the tent up to about 80 degrees easily. So it can be 10 degrees outside, 80 degrees inside. This is kind of a whole setup you would need, the tent and the stove, to go camping like this in the winter. But if you want to try something new, it's a lot of fun. Also, as a bonus tip, these little fans that you can put on top actually work really well for a small tent. They don't seem to blow very far, but if you're just in a tent, we have noticed that if you put it in here and it's blowing to one side of the tent will be a little bit warmer. And because you're sleeping on a cot, you're up higher, it does get a little bit of the warm air on you while you're sleeping or hanging out inside the tent. So not only do we camp out here, but the kids like to just come hang out in the evenings and start a fire because now they're getting old enough where they can light the fire and kind of feel like they're doing a lot when they keep it going, which is a lot of fun for them. So we really like this setup for our hot tent winter camping, but it did add a pretty good cost to get this set up. You get better quality gear the more you spend. That's kind of what I've learned as I've really gotten into camping the last 6 or 7 years, where we just camp all the time. A lot of this stuff hopefully will be a buy once, cry once type deal. Between the MSR, Winterwell, Tentsile, Pendleton, Grand First Brooks, all those things have really lasted and none of them have broken and had any issues. So I still have a lot of cheap stuff that I've made a video about because sometimes you just need cheap gear. Thank you for watching this one and enjoy your camping this summer.